Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Boise Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I am Rachel Murphy, and I am your celebrant this morning. Welcome to those of you who are joining us virtually. We are very glad that you're out there with us. And welcome to you all who made it into the sanctuary today. Let's take a moment to greet one another here, and also those of you who are here can turn around and wave. Those two eyes looking at us are all the people out in Zoom, so hello to everybody out there. Whether you are joining us today for the first time or you've been a member since the congregation's early days, you are welcome here. Whatever faiths you have known, if any, whatever your heritage, you are welcome here. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are welcome here. However you arrived at this beloved place, you are welcome here. We seek to make love visible in the world, to build a beloved, compassionate community, nurturing spirits, lifting hearts, broadening minds, and enacting justice. If that call speaks to your heart, you are welcome here. We have the honor today of receiving wisdom from our guest preacher, Kacee O'Connor, who is also a first-time chalice lighter. So, she is going to speak to us about drawing upon joy to widen our own circles from the inside out. We're also grateful to our music team, our music director, Carrie Bastian, and our special guest singer, Anne-Marie Bussolini. And we also are going to have a virtual visit from our Sunday Soulful Band. Of course, we are eternally grateful to our tech director, Mike Lemieux, who is bringing us all to you out there so beautifully. In addition, I want to acknowledge that although I am here as celebrant, Reverend Sarah Lawal did most of the heavy lifting of preparing everything you are hearing me say today, leaving me to receive the glory of looking like it was done by me. So, thank you, Sarah. In the spirit of our mission to build beloved community centered around justice, equity, compassion, and interconnection, let us take a moment to acknowledge our gathering upon native land.
We come from and live on land considered sacred by indigenous people known as Bannock, Paiute, Shoshone, and many other tribes that lived here sustainably for thousands of years. We strive to understand and reframe our responsibilities to land, to community. In the spirit of respectful reciprocity, we honor the original caretakers of this place. We affirm the relationships we have to each other, including our relations to animals and insects that inhabit the water, land, and sky. We recognize the relationship, the responsibility to quiet creeks, rushing rivers, rustling grasses, to sprawling forests, to the brilliant palettes of the sky, to the roots that grip the soil, to the earth beneath our feet. Water is life. To all of us affected by the boarding school revelations, may we be granted compassionate understanding. May we find healing in the harm that lives in our history. We honor and support the right to sovereignty for our indigenous neighbors. We acknowledge that a land acknowledgement is not enough. Now, let us breathe together. Let us take a moment to enjoy the delicious air, the oxygen provided by tree. Hold to the warm light of sun. Consider the solidity, the groundedness of earth. Flow with refreshing, life-giving water. Let the mud settle. Find clarity of mind and spirit. Welcome our ancestors. Enjoy this present moment together.
I want to take a moment now to welcome anyone who's a newcomer among us. It takes a lot of courage to check out a new community, and we're very glad that you've joined us today. For those newcomers who are joining us online, we invite you to introduce yourself in the chat. That way our community can warmly welcome you. And we'll also share a link to our newcomer form in the chat so you can keep up to date on what we're doing in the fellowship. For those newcomers joining us in person, we hope you'll stick around after the service to introduce yourselves. And you can find a link to our newcomer form on the QR code that is on your seats. We have a lot happening in our fellowship and in our community, from book groups to adult classes to meditation and neighborhood pods, both in person and online. Today, after the service, we have our Inquirers series for those of you who are looking to learn more about our fellowship. Today's session is on congregational life. You can join the Inquirers session through a breakout room on Zoom right after the service. I've also just been informed that tomorrow at the Capitol at 9 a.m., there is a rally that is being put on by Planned Parenthood in opposition to an anti-choice bill that is before the legislature. And so everyone is encouraged who is able to go participate in that. Every week we open up reservations for people to come join us in person. Reservations are available now for next Sunday's service. You can go on our website and reserve your spot and come on in and join us. We have found that there are always plenty of seats available. So if you have been hesitating about taking up a spot, please don't. Come on in. It is our practice here in the fellowship to donate 25% of our unpledged plate offering to support our social justice ministries. This month, we have been supporting the work of Immigrant Justice Idaho. They provide free and low-cost immigration services, legal services, and education about immigration law and policy, and they are the only freely provided and referral service recognized by the Department of Justice. IJI fills a colossal gap in Idaho's immigration legal services available to low-income Idahoans. While we no longer have a special time during the service to collect our offering, there are many ways that you can make a gift. If you are there online on your computers, you can go visit our website at boiseuu.org and click Give in the top right corner of your screen. For those of you who are in person, you can find that link on those QR codes, and you can take that home with you as well. You also can drop a check in a lockbox. They are located at either entrance. And we have a Vanco giving app. You can download that on your smartphone. Today, we are wrapping up our monthly theme of widening the circle by contemplating how to widen our own experience of joy. Focusing on joy right now might feel indulgent. To paraphrase how Reverend Sarah put it in an email to Kacee and me earlier this week, stuff is going down right now. Russia has invaded Ukraine. Texas is dropping the criminal hammer on parents of trans youth. Never mind our own legislature's craziness. And the pandemic is still keeping us apart and wreaking havoc on our own mental health. What right do we have to talk about joy? I would say these are the times when joy and a practice of cultivating joy are most needed. And I'm grateful to Kacee for helping talk us through how we might get there. In that spirit, let us take a breath and center ourselves to move into worship. As I read our poem, Second Person Intimate, by the Reverend Kendall Gibbons, consider hearing the thous and thines as your own deep well of joy, however hidden it may feel. Thou art the song of my heart in the morning. Thou art the dawn of truth in my soul. Thou art the dew of the roses adorning. Thou art the woven whole. Thine is the grace to be steadfast in danger. Thine is the peace that none can destroy. Thine is the face of the need-riven stranger. Thine are the wings of joy. Thou art the deep, to the deep in me calling. Thou art a lamp where my feet shall tread. Thy way is steep, past the peril of falling. Thou art my daily bread. Thine be the praise of my spirit uplifted. Thou art the sea to each flowing stream. Thine be the days that are gathered and sifted. Thou art the deathless dream.
We come from and live on land considered sacred by indigenous people, known as Bannock.
We'll have our song coming in a moment.
Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one is alone, we'll be side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one is alone, we'll be side by side. Draw the circle wide.
Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one is alone, we'll be side by side.
No one is alone.
Draw the circle wide.
Draw the circle
it seems there's no relief, we will hold you until the storm subsides. We'll draw the circle wide.
Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one is alone. We are side by side. No one is alone.
Draw the circle wide.
Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one is alone. We are side by side. No one is alone. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. Open up your hearts, let them feel us side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle. Draw the circle wide.
Draw it this wide. Draw the circle wide. Draw circle wide. See the number 8. Draw circle wide. Draw circle wide. Draw circle wide. Draw circle wide. Draw circle wide.
At this hour, in small towns and big cities, in living rooms and in sanctuaries, many of our sibling Unitarian Universalists are also lighting flaming chalices, reminding us that we are part of a great community of faith. As a community, we light the chalice here in the sanctuary, the symbol of our free faith, beacon of hope and justice. For our virtual community, if you have a chalice nearby, you're invited to light it with us. Then share in the chat where you are worshiping this morning. Those kids make it look so easy. I don't know. I might need one, huh? With our collective chalices lit in all our worship spaces, we offer you this call to worship from Leslie Takahashi Morris. This is On the Brink. All that we have ever loved and all that we have ever been stands with us on the brink of all that we aspire to create. A deeper peace, a larger love, a more embracing hope, a deeper joy in this life we share. Come, let us worship together.
The Missing Piece Meets the Big O by Shel Silverstein. The missing piece sat alone, waiting for someone to come along and take it somewhere. Some fit, but could not roll. Others could roll, but did not fit. One didn't know a thing about fitting, and another didn't know a thing about anything. One was too delicate. One put it up on a pedestal and left it there. Some had too many pieces missing. Some had too many pieces, period. More came. Some looked too closely. Others rolled right by without noticing. It tried to make itself more attractive. It didn't help. It tried being flashy, but that just frightened away the shy ones. At last, one came along that fit just right. But all of a sudden, the missing piece began to grow and grow. Well, I didn't know you were going to grow. I didn't either, said the missing piece. I'm looking for my missing piece, one that won't increase. Bye. And then one day, one came along who looked different. What do you want of me? Asked the missing piece. Nothing. What do you need from me? Nothing. Who are you? Asked the missing piece. I am the Big O, said the Big O. I think you're the one I've been waiting for, said the missing piece. Maybe I'm your missing piece. But I'm not missing a piece, said the Big O. There's no place you would fit. That's too bad, said the missing piece. I was hoping that perhaps I could roll with you. You cannot roll with me, said the Big O, but perhaps you can roll by yourself. By myself? Missing piece cannot roll by itself. Have you ever tried? Asked the Big O. But I have sharp corners, said the missing piece. I'm not shaped for rolling. Corners wear off, said the Big O, and shapes change. Anyhow, I must say goodbye. Perhaps we will meet again. And it rolled away. The missing piece was alone again. For a long time, it just sat there. Then, slowly, lifted itself up onto one end and flopped over. Then, lift, pull, flop. It began to move forward. And soon its edges began to wear off, and its shape began to change. And then it was bumping instead of flopping, and then it was bouncing instead of bumping, and then it was rolling instead of bouncing, and it didn't know where, and it did not care. It was rolling.
spring truth into the world. May your heart know love and your hands do the work of justice as you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace.
Our reading this morning is the poem In Any Event by Dorianne Lau. If we are fractured like stars, bred to shine in every direction, through any dimension, billions of years since and hence. I shall not lament the human, not yet. There is something more to come. Our hearts, a gold mine, not yet plumbed, an uncharted sea. Nothing is gone forever. If we came from dust and will return to dust, then we can find our way into anything. What we are capable of is not yet known. And I praise us now in advance.
Whoops. By now, most of us know of Marie Kondo, less as a person and more as a verb for jettisoning unwanted objects that no longer spark joy. Well, this begs the question, what is joy exactly? Can we gain or lose joy by our objects? Nothing like a pandemic to turn a household organizational strategy into an existential quest. And yet, so many of us are experiencing what feels like crisis from 2 years in the weird tunnel of pandemic shapeshifting, that we're looking for strategies to carry us out of this intact, both physically and psychologically. So where does joy come from, and how can we get more? Sparking joy seems like a good thing to figure out, but also elusive. Over the past few years, and especially now with the growing assaults on our LGBTQ families, on women's reproductive rights, and in the global throes of war, literature is full of stories of the joy being sucked out of us, like with the Dementors in Harry Potter, the gliding foulest of dark creatures, feeding on human happiness and thus generating feelings of depression and despair in any person in close proximity to them. They could consume a person's soul, leaving victims in a permanent vegetative state, turned into empty shells. Sounds like our upside-down world. I'm not confident there's enough chocolate for all of this. Back to Marie Kondo. Lighting sparks is pretty simple. So why is joyfulness challenging? In January, I did a thing. The same month I leveled up to 65 and unlocked the power of Medicare insurance, I reopened my counseling practice. I was happily retired, I thought, but I recognized after the last couple of years I'd been struggling with the same malaise, confusion, and depression that much of the planet has felt. So I sought a counselor to do some existential exploring. Cleaning closets just had not sparked what I had expected. Brené Brown defines joy as an intense feeling of deep spiritual connection, pleasure, and appreciation. I just don't have that level of stuff. My joy was not in my cupboards or the closets. Counselors can be skilled guides, and Brené offered a clue. My joy was out there. I wanted to find it. After months of interesting sessions, my counselor casually asked me if I would ever consider returning to practicing counseling. Without missing a beat, I exclaimed, no, I would not. I was sure I didn't miss it because I remembered how hard I had worked now that I wasn't. And after all, I had a rich, full life with grandsons and reading and sewing and baking and getting up whenever I wanted. Counselors are tricky, the way they just drop little seeds into a cozy conversation and then watch to see if it sprouts. I remember doing that with my clients and then having flashes of personal insight along with them. But I could not shake memories of the fatigue of a thriving practice. I just couldn't be bothered to pursue this line of discussion. More months went by, and darned if that little seed hadn't been niggling at me from the background. One session, I mused with my therapist that I'd not been able to ignore the tug of her question. As soon as her seed dropped, I had dismissed any thought of going back to work. I stomped that sprout down every time I noticed it. I doggedly redirected to things that I thought were enjoyable, and they are. I love reading, riding my bike, going for walks, spending time at the river, knitting, yoga, meditation, trying new recipes, wandering in the woods, and volunteering at kindergarten art class. And still, that little seed grew. Imaginings began to creep in like determined spring buds in ways I just couldn't ignore. I felt different, like a butterfly sensation in my being, my soul fluttering. At first, it made me nervous. I was working so hard to find contentment in so many other directions until I began to register that contentment isn't joy. In time, I mentioned the idea of what if I returned to counseling? Outside of my counseling sessions, out loud. Well, that was like fertilizer and water. The notion really took off. Suddenly, I was flooded with ideas and information that led to phone calls and internet searches. Fast forward, I spent 2 intense months in November and December taking 40 hours of online continuing ed classes and trudging through the tasks of opening a counseling practice. My nervousness shifted to excitement. I started sleeping more soundly. Little things annoyed me less. The sky looked a more cliché shade of blue. When I get an idea to try something new, I typically follow the theory of the opening doors. If they keep opening, I keep going through. They stop opening, I reconsider. Well, these doors didn't just open. When I nudged them, they flew wide. The first person I asked about office space offered me an ideal arrangement. And even though the mountain of logistical details was a steep climb, I found few significant obstacles. Plus, I started to recognize Brené Brown's intense feeling of pleasure and appreciation. I also began to see a little paradox of reaching out in a pandemic to connect with others in distress as a means of finding my own sense of deep spiritual connection. I remembered that I am a healer and that helping others to find their way through the swamp of distress deepens my own sense of belonging. Brené Brown reminds me that true belonging is the spiritual practice of believing in and belonging to yourself so deeply that you can share your most authentic self with the world and find sacredness in both being a part of something and standing alone in the wilderness. True belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. And I am someone who helps people accomplish what Louisa May Alcott describes when she says, "I am not afraid of storms, for I am learning to steer my ship." Poet James Cruz connected the dots for me in his statement that during these uncertain and trying times, we tell ourselves that joy is an indulgence we can no longer afford. And we're becoming all too familiar with the despair filling the airways and crowding out social media feeds, leading to what psychologists call empathy or compassion fatigue, whereby we grow numb and disconnected from the suffering of others. My malaise and feeling of existential dread was a form of little t trauma, exacerbated by having to pull away because of pandemic safety precautions, and thereby numbing myself to suffering. I remember unsuccessfully researching antibody testing, wanting to be eligible to safely help those at greater risk with shopping, medical appointments, childcare. The isolation frayed so many of our spiritual connections and dampened our collective joy. The logo for my new counseling practice is a nautilus, a whorl that invokes my sense of spiritual journeying through life, passing points on our path that are not identical, but look familiar, albeit from an ever-widening vantage. Labyrinths intrigue me for the same reason. The path is not a maze. It's a discovery of returning to the same place over and over again, but with adapted understanding that updates our life stories. In trauma counseling, clients work through a healing process that humans generally go through autonomically. But for whatever reason, in an experience that overwhelms us, memory material can get stuck, leaving us without the adapted narrative. And in a global trauma, much like we are facing now, with no end in sight, we can mislead ourselves into believing that joy is indeed an indulgence we can no longer afford. Because letting ourselves indulge in joy can feel like every time we let down our guard and imagine a life without COVID, without human rights abuses, without the threat of nuclear war and existential dread, one more shocking reality smacks us down. It can be difficult to see even a flicker of joy for the numbing. So many of us used to experience joy as the antidote to fear. How have we gotten to a place where experiencing joy and spiritual connection is seen as indulgent? We are just that burnt out. For me, my wrestling with all of this led to engaging with others' suffering and going back to the work that centers and energizes me. Obviously, that won't be the path for everyone. However, I am positive that joy is not an indulgence, and we cannot afford to neglect its light. Joy is not in our closets or our stuff. While our useful things and our clothes and our treasures and our pastimes can definitely delight us, they also can distract us. We can grow complacent. Joy is in our ability to filter the newsreels and the politics and social media feeds that become the mucky pathway to existential fatigue and numbness. Let's not ignore them. Instead, we bear witness with and practice compassion for ourselves and for others. Joy is in the teachings of our 8 principles and our 6 sources of Unitarian Universalism that lead us to Brené Brown's intense feeling of deep spiritual connection. In the process of cleaning our inner closets, we can discover what genuinely pleases us. And it's almost always the realization that we are social beings. We thrive in community, leaning into our stories, our empathy, our compassion, our belonging, and our love. We trim our wicks for perfect combustion and bring clean light of the lanterns of our innate joy as humans. Being always on the side of love and knowing love never gives up, we widen the circle from the inside out.
Thank you, Kacee. Later, we're going to share a meditation that Kacee uses to bring joy into her day each day. But right now, we're going to lean in to this place of deep spiritual connection and create a space in this beloved community for sharing our joys and sorrows. We would like to receive the blessings of our community and to remind one another, as Kacee said, that we do not journey through this life alone. Anyone can submit a joy or a sorrow online at any time via the link on our website. And the bookmark on your QR code here will also take you there. We collect these joys and sorrows and we share them aloud each week. Our virtual community can also continue to share joys and sorrows in the chat. We combine our collective joys and sorrows each month and share them in a community-wide email. It is through our sharing with one another that we forge our deep bonds of community and connection. And I have a couple of joys and sorrows to share out loud this week. Reese and Michael Barker share the joy of their daughter Adelaide beginning the OWL class for first graders, which is Our Whole Lives. They say during the first session, there was so much laughter from the kids that they could hear it in the other room. And the next day, Adelaide said she couldn't wait to see her friends at OWL again. It is wonderful for our young people to be able to join together again in community like this. We also want to hold close to our hearts Dicey Adams, who is back home after a scare of preterm labor, but is doing well and resting. We also hold Martin Wilk and his wife Carol, as Martin's health continues to decline and Carol is moving through her cancer treatments. If you are holding someone in your heart this morning, I invite you to speak their name out loud into this community if you are comfortable, that we may hold them with you, and you may do the same at home. May the arms of this community hold all our joys and sorrows, those named and those that remain silent in our hearts. May we feel the grace that surrounds us and be transformed by the spirit of life and love, with warmth to celebrate our joys and gentleness to soothe our aching hearts. And now may your heart be soothed by the beautiful music of Anne-Marie Bussolini and Carrie on piano.
and I'll stand up proudly in true peace of mind, talking about a way over yonder is a place I have seen. It's a garden of wisdom from some long ago dream, and maybe tomorrow I'll find my way to the land where the honey runs, in the rivers each day, and the sweet taste in good life is so easily found way over yonder. That's where I'm bound.
I invite you now to join me in the spirit of prayer for this guided loving kindness meditation. I've adapted this from a practice that Kacee shared with me, which she says helps her to find joy in each day. Begin by breathing. Find a comfortable space for your body and breathe. You may close your eyes if that works for you. Keep breathing. Allow your breath to settle into an easy rhythm and welcome your mind to slow. Now, see yourself wherever you are, as if through the eyes of someone who loves you. As you do, think or speak aloud to yourself these words: may I be safe and free from suffering. May I be joyful. May I be at ease. Now, bring to mind someone you love, someone perhaps who is struggling. As you do, think or speak aloud to yourself these words: may they be safe and free from suffering. May they be joyful. May they be at ease. Now, bring to mind someone you struggle with, someone perhaps to whom it is challenging to wish loving kindness. Let them sit in your mind for a moment and try to see them through the eyes of someone who loves them. As you do, think or speak aloud these words. May they be safe and free from suffering. May they be joyful. May they be at ease. Now bring to mind all of those around you, here in the sanctuary or in your home. And you may widen that circle beyond our fellowship to our city, our state, our country, and our world. As you do, think or speak aloud these words. May we be safe and free from suffering. May we be joyful. May we be at ease. Now bring yourself back to where you are sitting. You may open your eyes if you closed them, return to the room. Take another deep breath together. May we bring this joy into our lives this week and in the weeks ahead, remembering that joy is often only a breath away if we invite it in. Amen. We have a special gift as our closing song. It's from our Soulful Sunday Band. It was created for the finale of our auction, yet it is also fitting as we close out our month of widening the circle by cultivating joy. For when we cultivate our own joy, it cannot help but ripple out from us to touch all of those around us. Here is Ripple.
Did glow with the gold of sunshine, and my tunes were played on the harp unstrung. Would you hear my voice come through the music? Would you hold it near as it were your own? It's a hand-me-down. The thoughts are broken. Perhaps they're better left unsung. I don't know. Don't really care. Let there be songs to fill the air. Ripple in still water when there is no pebble tossed nor wind to blow.
Reach out your hand if your cup be empty. if your cup is full, may it be again, let it be known. There is a fountain that was not made by the hands of men. There is a road, no simple highway between the dawn and the dark of night. And if you go, no one may follow. That path is for your steps alone.
Ripple in still water when there is no pebble tossed, nor wind to blow. You who choose to lead must follow. But if you fall alone. If you should stand, then who's to guide you? If I knew the way, I would take you home. La da da da. La da
Oh, what a way to go into the week. Friends, here I invite you to stand if you are able and if you wish to do so. And you may stand at home as well if you want. And I invite you to place your hands over your hearts for our closing blessing. As we go out into our week ahead, let us aspire to create together a larger love, a more embracing hope, a deeper joy in this life we share. Blessed are we all. Go in peace.